great day, students. It's Mr. Sargent here with your recap video for today. And today in science, we continued our energy series by reviewing what energy is, reviewing gravitational energy, which we learned about last week, and talking about a new form of energy today, and that is heat energy. We're going to be reading a really great book on EPIC together, as well as discussing the 3 ways that heat energy can go from one thing to another. So ladies and gentlemen, sit back and let's learn. So we're going to start off today by reviewing what energy is. Now, we know the definition of energy is the ability to do work. All right. Now, last week we focused on gravitational energy, where we did a really cool experiment. And if you didn't get a chance to do that, definitely go back to Friday's video, check it out. Ladies and gentlemen, we had a lot of fun. But today we're going to switch gears and go to one of the most common forms of energy on Earth, and that is heat energy. Now, first and foremost, we know that all energy on Earth comes from where? We know the sun. And the sun gives us a lot of heat energy. But what is heat energy? Well, heat energy is sort of what happens when we use the other forms of energy and we transfer. Now, we know transfer means to use one piece of energy to another, because as you remember about energy, we cannot create it, we cannot destroy it, we can only use it. So when we use energy, often heat is created, thus having heat energy. And I wanted to talk about heat energy today because as we talk about the different forms of energy, heat has a role in each and every single one of them. So we can always refer back to this video, back to this book, back to these experiments that we're going to be doing this week when we talk about the different energy forms. So, ladies and gentlemen, to learn a little bit more about heat, let's take a look at the book, The Energy That Warms Us, A Look at Heat. So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you're reading along with me. The Energy That Warms Us, A Look at Heat. What is heat? Have you felt the warmth of a sunny summer day or a mug of hot chocolate? That warmth is heat. Heat is a form of energy. We use heat all the time. Heat is used to cook food. Heat makes a shower or bath warm. This is down here. Heat was used to bake this bread. Heat is also used to make and shape things. Molten gold is poured into a mold to create a gold bar. How is heat made? The sun provides heat for all living things. Its energy heats the earth. Heat also comes from inside Earth. Hot melted rocks are deep under the ground. Their heat warms rocks and water on the planet. Steam rises from this hot spring at Yellowstone National Park. Hot springs are pools of water heated by Earth. Friction is a force created when 2 things rub together. Friction makes heat. Heather rubs her hands together to stay warm. Fire makes heat. People use heat from fire to cook their food. Sometimes they make fires to stay warm outside in cold weather. A family uses the heat from a campfire to roast marshmallows. Our bodies turn the food we eat into energy. Some of that energy is turned into heat. Derek uses his energy to play soccer. He gets very warm when he plays. How heat moves. Heat moves in 3 ways. Heat travels in liquids and gases by convection. Convection often makes the air cooler and windier near the ocean. Convection carries heat through a pot of water on the stove. And if we look at the diagram right there, it says that the water keeps moving around in a pot as shown above until all the water is equally warm. And you can look at the different steps. It starts at the bottom and then it works its way through. Convection also moves heat through gases in air. And if you look there, that kind of looks like our discussion on weather, where heat rises and cold air sinks. Conduction carries heat between objects that are touching. This spoon will become hot after sitting in a bowl of hot soup for a few minutes. Metal is a good conductor of heat. Heat travels through metal quickly. Wood is not a very good conductor. Heat takes longer to travel through wood. The wooden board keeps the metal pan's heat from burning the tablecloth. Heat travels through space by radiation. The heat moves in rays we cannot see. Planets closer to the sun get more of its heat than faraway planets do. How is heat measured? The amount of heat in an object is its temperature. Cold objects have low temperatures, hot objects have high temperatures. Snow cones have low temperatures. They can cool you off on a hot day. A thermometer is a tool that measures temperature. Temperature is usually measured in degrees in Fahrenheit or degrees in Celsius. We use thermometers to measure the air outside. We use thermometers to measure the temperature of food too. We know that meat is cooked when it reaches a certain temperature. We also use a thermometer to measure a body's temperature. Balancing hot and cold. Living things need to stay warm. Clothing and blankets keep the heat of our bodies from escaping into the air. People wear thick clothing when it's cold. Birds depend on their feathers to keep warm. Mammals have hair or fur. It can be dangerous if living things get too hot, but people and animals have ways to keep their bodies the right temperature. Some animals have much thinner coats of fur during warmer months. This dog takes short, quick breaths to cool off when it's hot. People wear thin, loose clothing in hot weather. Then air can move the heat away from our bodies. Light-colored clothing stays cooler in sunlight than dark clothing does. People also have ways to control the temperature indoors. An air conditioner takes heat out of the air. That makes the air cooler. A furnace heats the air and insulation acts like a blanket for walls and roofs. It keeps hot or cold air in and the outside air out. This man puts insulation in the walls of a ceiling of a home. How do you stay warm or cool enough? And here are some great activities that we're going to be doing this week. If you want to hit pause and take a look at that, you will definitely see this is a pretty cool experiment. Wow, so much information in that book, ladies and gentlemen. But if there's three things that I would pick out, it is the three different ways that heat is transferred. Now, the word transferred means moved from one place to another, or we can just say used. So if you look back in the book, there were three ways that heat can be transferred. We have conduction, convection, and radiation. So let's do a quick discussion on conduction, convection, and radiation. All right, so for conduction, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take one hand here, put them together, start rubbing. Well, what happens? Well, the more you rub, the warmer your hands get because your hands are touching. Now, this is caused by another key term, friction, which is the resistance of movement. But in this case, since our hands are touching, it's a heat transfer called conduction. All right. Now, when heat transfers from hot to cold, ladies and gentlemen, it has to be touching. Now, when we think of conduction, we have to think of maybe a pan on a stove. Well, the pan has to be touching the stove to heat up, doesn't it? Well, since it's touching, it's conduction. Next, we have convection. Now, with convection, ladies and gentlemen, we kind of talked about this already when we talked about weather, when heat rises and cold air sinks. Well, if heat transfer is dealing with air or water, then ladies and gentlemen, it is convection. I want you to think of that picture of the spoon in the soup. Eventually, the spoon is going to get hot because it's touching the hot water. Now, a lot of people confuse conduction with convection, and that's okay. But just know if it has to do with water or air, It is convection. And finally, we have radiation. Now, radiation travels in waves. Now, we also get this form of energy from the sun, directly from the sun. So when the sun is out, it is emitting some rays or some waves. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gaining some of that heat from the sun. If you ever noticed, it's a lot warmer during the day than it is at night, isn't it? Because we're getting that radiated heat from the sun. It is going from the sun to the rays, well, to us. And that is radiation. But can you think of other places where we can have radiation energy or radiation heat transfer? Well, how about a microwave? A microwave uses radiation to heat up your food. Ladies and gentlemen, these are 3 different styles of and ways that heat can be transferred. All 3 have some sort of connection, but for the most part, they are all separate. And ladies and gentlemen, I am very thankful that we're able to transfer heat. Now, this week, we're going to be talking about other things about heat transfer. We're going to be doing an experiment on Wednesday where we look at the states of matter, because heat has a way of changing something. It can change something from a solid to a liquid, or to a liquid to a gas. And ladies and gentlemen, Wednesday, I cannot wait to teach about the states of matter and how heat energy can help transfer and change all of the states of matter. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions, feel free to Class Dojo me. Go back and reread the book, ladies and gentlemen. If you still don't understand heat transfer or just what heat is, definitely go back in this video, rewatch, reread, ask me questions, ladies and gentlemen. And until the next time I get to see you, I hope you have a great, great night.